Welcome, and thank you for joining this virtual event. Kindly please note, this live broadcast is being recorded. Please ensure that you have the correct audio output or device selected to hear the speakers and presenters. We encourage you to please submit all your topic-related questions to the speakers using the questions and answers function on the Zoom control panel located at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you do experience any technical difficulties, please feel free to let us know using the chat function on the Zoom control panel. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, and welcome to everyone. I'm Liesel Meyer, and I'm part of the Oxford team. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to dial into our webinar today. If you're in this webinar, you've most likely received a visit from one of our sales consultants during the course of September. In our recent visit, we promoted our DHET-approved Computer Practice N6 Student Book and Lecturer Guide. That now finally concludes our full series of approved computer practice titles for N4, N5, and N6. Before we get into today's webinar, I would like to tell you a little bit about us, Oxford University Press South Africa. We are an award-winning educational publisher with over 100 years of publishing experience in South Africa. Oxford, as we are more commonly known as, publishes for all educational sectors, including schools, higher education, and of course, DHET. We recognize the power of education to uplift and equip individuals, and we are deeply rooted and committed to changing lives through education. We strive to develop and deliver high quality and affordable educational materials to learners, students, teachers, and lecturers. Oxford University Press is South Africa's #1 dictionary and literature publisher. We publish more than 2,700 books in 11 official home languages. Our books are well researched, and we pride ourselves in the delivery of high service standards. One of the most anticipated changes within the TVET arena is the updated syllabi in key subject areas. We, as Oxford University Press, welcomes these changes as it speaks to our core mission, transforming lives through education. There's a renewed focus from the government towards TVET institutions and the upskilling of young people and preparing our youth to enter the workplace confidently. Also, to have graduates that possess the 21st century skills required in the workplace. You, as lecturers, well, you play a critical part in the delivery of these skills to our youth. You stand at the front line of the educational system, and it's our privilege to guide you through these changes. We understand that these changes and shifts, as we respond to the demand of the fourth industrial revolution, can cause uncertainty. But just by choosing to attend this webinar, you've taken the first step in responding to these changes. Our main aim with this webinar is to take you by the hand and carefully go through the changes of the curriculum. We will guide you on best practice for teaching and what the changes would mean to you and your students practically. I will now be handing over to our computer practice expert, Mario Hartnick. Mario is a TVET lecturer in computer practice N4 to N6 and has been involved in the teaching, preparation, and organization of computer-related subjects for the Report 191 and NCV program since 2010. He's a lifelong learner with an educational background that includes a BA and a PGCE and an honors degree in educational management. He's also a certified IT essentials instructor. I hope that you will have a renewed outlook on this subject as we look forward to a very engaging virtual workshop We encourage you to please raise your questions using the Zoom Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Without further ado, I hand you over to our expert on the subject, Mario.
Good day, everyone, and thank you, first of all, to Oxford University Press for giving me the opportunity to present to you today. And of course, thank you so much, Liesel Mayer, for that kind introduction. So without further ado, let's begin. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the new computer practice, or better, the Succeed in Computer Practice textbooks and the new syllabus, specifically for computer practice in 5 and computer practice in 6. So without any further ado, let's begin. What will we be covering today? First of all, I'm going to discuss what's new in the syllabus for N5 and N6. We're going to just look at some lecture support that can be offered. I'm going to also explain to you a little bit how the ICASS guidelines have changed, not only for computer practice, but actually for report 1 and 1 in total. And then the tips, I'm going to give you some tips on how to deal with the new content. So first, we're going to start with computer practice in 5. Computer practice in 5, if you look at the textbook, the table of contents will show you the following parts. First of all, I just need to give you put your attention on Module 1, Module 2, Module 7, Module 8, Module 9, Module 10, and Module 11. Those are actually all theory modules. The only difference is that Module 1 and Module 2 are very similar to the old curriculum, and then Modules 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, they are all new to the curriculum. Modules 3, 4, and 5, and 6, those are your practical parts of the syllabus for N5. So if we first focus on the theory modules, Module 1, which is your introduction to the concepts of ICT, the digital world, and digital citizenship. And you will notice that this particular module links up with N4, the new N4 module. For example, the digital world and digital citizenship was modules on their own, and they are now combined when we come to N5. And when we speak about the introduction to concepts of ICT and how do they fit in with those kind of concepts. You have your personal computers and mobile devices. And as we know that computers and mobile devices, they are all combined these days. You don't have a computer, for example, or a mobile device like a telephone and a tablet. They are all connected and they work like mini computers these days. So that particular module focuses on how do these devices actually link up, and how do the concepts of ICT actually fit in when we talk about computers and mobile devices. When we go into the more hard theory modules, or the newer theory modules, like your networks and your system technologies and internet and communication skills, computational thinking, online forms, document managing and blogs, and again, a little bit of digital citizenship again. These are all new modules, but we will speak about them in more detail later on in the presentation. You will notice that Module 6 is in green, and that is because it's a brand new program when we are going into the practical parts of computer practice in 5. Electronic notebooks replaces the PowerPoint presentation or PowerPoint software discussed in 4. But again, I will talk about that a little bit more. And then what's not necessarily new to N5 is your file management, your word processing, such as mail merge, and of course your spreadsheets. But again, there's a few new added formulas to the syllabus, and we will go into more details about that also. Going on to our next slide. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail of what to expect for the computer practice in 5 syllabus or content in the textbooks. As I've mentioned earlier, I should just mention this is specifically only the practical parts. So as I mentioned earlier, file management is still part of the syllabus, and as you would remember, in the old computer practice in 5 syllabus, file management was very much important, and we did a lot of file management in N5. Nothing has changed, it's still going to be there. So you can expect again file management and more specifically print screens to be part of your textbook and your syllabus. Then when we go over to the Microsoft Word part, word editing is still there. There is 1 or 2 or 3 new concepts, but it's just more concepts that's now available in Word that we also now included. And of course, mail merge is still there. Microsoft Excel, the managing and the editing of your worksheets, creating and editing of graphs and charts, specifically charts, they are still there. But all the green, those are new formulas that we are now going to deal with when we talk about, or when we deal with Microsoft Excel. Using Excel functions like your count A, your count blank, and count if is now part of the N5 syllabus. Your text functions such as small or equals small and equals large formulas. Your if calculations has always been part of exclusively been part of the old N6 curriculum, but we now introduced them to the N5s. So your if calculations, your count if, and your sum ifs, those are all brand new exciting formulas that we can teach our new N5s. Round, rand, and rand between functions, they are all now part of computer practice in 5, and I'm also going to do power function. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Microsoft OneNote is replacing PowerPoint. PowerPoint was new in N4, and it was only exclusively for N4. So it gets replaced now by OneNote. And the nice thing about OneNote is collaboration software. It is easy. There's no need to be stressed about this new software that we're going to do in computer practice. It's actually going to be really fun and exciting for students to deal with. When we go into the computer practice in 5 support, and here I'm going to touch on the new ICASS guidelines. The previous ICASS guidelines, or ICASS for computer practice, as we would all remember, has been always 3 assessments. So students were expected to do a task that counted 20% towards their ICASS or their year mark, or more correctly, their semester mark. They did a test that counted 30%, and they did an internal exam that counted 50%. Since the second semester of 2021, we are going to, or that has changed. But all the assessments of the past, or let me put it this way, we've already done preparations for task tests and internal exams before we got the notice that it changed. So luckily, these assessments is already available and will be available on the Oxford Learning Zone, exclusively on the Oxford Learning Zone. If you would allow me, I would just like to show you some examples, and you can actually download these examples from the Oxford Learning Zone and give it to your students as activities or preparation for the exam or for their assessments. So if I go into the test, for example, let me go first into the task. This task was set up according to the old ICASS guidelines, but it's the new content that is being assessed. So I just want to show you, for example, what that would look like. Based on the old ICASS guideline of 20%, this one is out of 80, and it would have taken the student 2 hours to finish, but that's tentative. So this particular task is about files and folders and print screens, for example. So if we go into more detail, you'll see that there's also a theory part. So the theory part was already created based on the new syllabus. So we've divided the theory into questions. Question 1, which is about computing concepts. Question 2, the internet. Question 3 question 2, networking, question 3, internet, question 4, digital citizenship. Those are all theory questions, and students were actually allowed to go and do this as research. Of course, it is up to the lecturers if they want the students to physically do it as a test as well, under exam conditions or test conditions. So section B is about your file management. So remember the print screens that I spoke about, similar to the old curriculum. So this particular task was just about theory and file management. If I go to, for example, the test is out of 100. And again, there's a theory section. So here we would expect the students to go and study for the theory. They already had the theoretical or the research part. They've already done that for the task, so they already went through the theory content to some extent. So they should be more equipped to deal with a test situation when it comes to theory. And then this test also includes mail merge, spreadsheets. And if we go into the formulas, you will see it's just basic formulas at this stage for the Excel section. But we do include some new ones like, for example, small, large, and show your formulas. So the test is still basic, but there's an introduction into the new formulas taking place. And if we then go into the 120 marks, and here we discuss again theory, again mail merge, Excel, and OneNote. So I want to show you quickly an example of the Excel questions, where, for example, we now ask students to complete a sum, a low and a high, your percentage, your count, your average, percentage of total, and then some more editing software. When I show you let me show you the formulas. There's an if calculation. There's an average. There's a count if. There's a sum if. And then you have your normal editing that happens. So we've prepared the students already, or we were in the process of preparing the students for a task, a test, and an internal. If I continue to the next slide, where we are now going to talk about the new ICASS guidelines, I'm also going to show you what the new task and internal exam looks like. The task for the new ICASS is now 40%. It counts now 40%. The internal exam counts now 60%. So the weighting is a lot more. But the content still basically stays the same, because the test, you will notice there's no more test, because the test has now been worked into the task and into the internal exam. The internal exam actually is still the same one that I showed you earlier, but let's look at the task. This task is now out of 120, and the time frame can be 2 hours, it depends, or I would suggest give it to the students over a week, because this time around the students are going to do theory, files and folders, mail merge, and spreadsheets in the task. Remember, mail merge and spreadsheets and files and folders, they were actually part of the task. The theory files and folders were part of the old task, or the previous task from the old ICASS. Mail merge and spreadsheets were part of the test, but now they've been combined into the task. You still have the same task, theory questions. File management is still there. Mail merge is now part of the task, and then we have the Excel section. When we look at the internal exam, it should actually still look very much the same. Again, 122 hours. So we have your mail merge, your Excel, and your OneNote. Let me go into more detail concerning OneNote. As I said, the OneNote question is actually very easy. So they are just as, they should just open a OneNote question or a document program, and then just basically do basic things, insert a table, insert a picture, do some insert pages, insert a section. Pretty simple, very easy. I also want to show you or talk about the computer practice with Mr. H YouTube channel that's also a supporting structure. So there's a YouTube channel that I've created that in time will have a lot more video content concerning computer practice in 4, 5, and in 6 based on the new curriculum. So at the moment, there's already financial calculations, there's already H lookups and V lookups, there's already if calculations. These ones are more based on the current syllabus for N6, but as time goes on, they will start to develop into the new syllabus. So that brings us now to computer practice N6. So if we now look at the table of contents for computer practice N6, we will again, you have the parts in red, computing concepts and application skills, your input and your output of the information processing cycle, computational thinking, electronic communication, internet and communication plug-in and web services, internet web services in the digital age, risk and security related issues, training and certification, and lastly, your ICT and the impact on the economy. So those are all new theory sections, and I don't want you to be too alarmed at all the theory. That's actually a good thing because theory supports your practical side, and you can use the theory, and you must actually set up your assessments in such a way that it supports research of your theory questions. So allow your students to go and explore the theory concepts outside of the classroom and bring the information back to you. So you can spend more time on practical work. So if we look at your, maintenance and utilities is also part of the theory, even though it's more concerned with the operating system. So and then the practical parts is just word processing, spreadsheets, and again, electronic notebooks. So again, we leave PowerPoint behind in N4, and then we continue with notebooks in N5 and N6. I also should mention that we officially have said goodbye to Microsoft Access. Microsoft Access has always been part of computer practice N5. It's no longer part of computer practice N5. And when we talk about computer practice N6, remember in the old curriculum, students had a choice. They did theory, and then they had a choice between either Word or Excel. The new syllabus is set up in such a way that the question paper will ask them theory questions, Word questions, spreadsheet questions, and notebook questions. So if we go into more detail concerning the computer practice information, there is again going to be some file management, but not a lot. There will always be file management, but the main focus is going to be Microsoft Word, Excel, and OneNote. So Microsoft Word, again, is going to have your word editing and your mail merge, but you must also keep in mind that when it comes to Microsoft Word, it's more to do with advanced functions in computer practice N6. So you're going to deal with document editing, shape manipulation, creating adverts, invitations, business letters, collaborating with other programs and templates, combining with other programs such as Excel, for example, especially when you deal with mail merge. So the way that you set up your assessments, your ICASS assessments, should include these elements, like not only creating business letters, but creating invitations, manipulating shapes, collaborating with other programs such as Excel when you do your mail merge question, etc., etc. So when we go now to Microsoft Excel, there's actually quite a lot of advanced formulas, as would be expected for an N6 student at that stage. So we're going to use advanced formula constructs, such as how to incorporate advanced calculations. Again, your if statements is going to come again. And let me also just mention, even though if calculations or if statements is already being explored in N5, it's a basic if calculation. So we don't expect students to know too much about ifs, but we are introducing them to the if statements when it comes to N5. When we get to N6, then the if statements becomes slightly more advanced. So again, we're going to also do VLOOKUPs, date and time calculations, pivot tables, indexing or index and match calculations, offset, choose, payment, which were usually part of your financial calculations. So payment calculations has always been part of N6, but now we also include the I-payment calculation as well. Your date calculations has always been there, but now we also include pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, if statement, index match, offset, and they are all part of the new Excel family. So we're going to also look at how to perform advanced charting operations, like, for example, exploring advanced charting features such as spark lines, graphics, relabeling of your axes, your changing values within existing charts, or how to change values within existing charts, and then changing chart appearances. When creating assessments, please consider real-life questions or real-life scenarios and problems that we are actually going to use in real-life situations, like, for example, your business statistics, traveling frequency, and forecasting. So work those kind of questions into your assessment so that the students can get a real-life experience almost when they deal with these type of calculations. And then, of course, we are again going to look at Microsoft OneNote, but again, very simple. The assessments for computer practice in 6 ICASS assessments has not yet been created. It will be created by the end of the semester. And as soon as those are complete, again, they will be loaded onto the Oxford University Press Learning Zone. So again, when we look at the computer practice support, same concepts. The old curriculum had your task 20%, your test 30%, and your internal 50%. But now the task is going to be 40% and the internal exam is going to be 60%. Only 2 assessments, but they count more. And again, computer practice with Mr. H YouTube channel is going to be a great support to show students, for example, how to do a lot of these calculations. So now I'm going to go into some tips on how to deal with the new content. And I know there's a lot of questions, especially concerning the theory questions and then the new part of the practical sections. When we look at the theory questions or the theory section content, take care not to leave it to the end and then not to give the theory enough time. So don't leave your theory to the end. As I said before, rather work theory into your assessments as a research type of question, so that the students are still part or busy with the theory content even though you are busy with practical work at the same time. Here's a suggestion: alternate 3 to 4 days of practical work and then spend 1 or 2 days in theory per week. Doing large blocks of theory could cause the students to lose focus. So don't just do theory days and days on end. You have to do some practical work. And as I said, where the research component comes in by using the internet and so forth, those internet skills, try to teach students to find information, theoretical information. It's like your YouTube. Use YouTube to find videos of what, for example, is being discussed. Like, for example, this is what a router looks like. This is what a switch looks like. And go and explore where someone actually explains on a YouTube video what it is about. That way they are actually practically learning theory. Let the students do their theory power breaks at home. Whenever possible, use real examples when teaching theory to make it more engaging for the students. For example, an actual network card, switch, network cables, open YouTube, what I said earlier. Make use of the suggested video clips provided in the lecture guide. So the lecture guide provides you already with information of where to go and find certain videos and to go and explore them. So use the PowerPoint slides also. PowerPoint slides are provided on the learning zone for each section as a basis for your presentations of the topic. They are designed to ensure that all required content is covered. The illustrations are provided where appropriate to engage the students visually, and adapt the slides to your own style if you prefer. Nothing is set in stone. You can change the slides, adapt them to work for you, but the nice thing is they are available, not only on the CD, but also on the Oxford University Learning Zone. So some support or guidance when you deal with the new content, and this is now more to do with the practical content. Make use of old question papers. First semester, rely on the old. When I talk about the first semester, I'm specifically talking about M5. First semester, rely on old curriculum question papers that already have concepts like your mail merge, your word editing, basic Excel documents, for example, Excel questions, sorry. So your question paper concerning word editing and mail merge. As more final exams are written over the year and over the semesters, you are going to build up a library for yourself, and then you can literally just teach based on the question papers. So for the first semester, try to use old question papers of the old curriculum and then just supplement them with the power breaks that's in the textbook. And at this stage, I also need to mention, we have activities that's in the textbook, but the majority of the activities you will also find on the learning zone available for you. Now use the provided ICASS task, test, and internal exam to guide students to the rest of the Excel and OneNote questions, as I showed you earlier. Register and download the extra activities from the Oxford Learning Zone. Allow students to work through the theory content as self-study. That's important. You're not going to necessarily get time to go through every single module in detail. So allow the students to explore the theory content on their own. Create your assessments in such a way that allows the student to do research or to bring out the research element so they can actually explore the theory content without actually sitting in a class just being fed information. So make the theory come alive by asking students to explore the theory concepts by creating practical tasks. And I need to emphasize the word practical tasks when we deal with theory. Move away from just allowing students or letting students study, hardcore studying. let them explore the concepts practically. And always, when in doubt about anything, consult your syllabus. Always go back to your syllabus if you're unsure about it. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. Thank you again, Oxford University Press, for allowing me the opportunity to do this presentation. And please visit my YouTube channel for more information, and also Oxford University Press website, the Learning Zone. That's your place to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mario Hartnick, with a very insightful presentation on the revised curriculum. I am Itumeleng, a proud member of Oxford University Press. I will be co-facilitating this session with Yolandi Farm and Asif. Yolandi is the lead publisher and Asif is the publisher at Oxford University Press. Yolandi will now be taking over the segment, and she will be looking into the key features of the Oxford Succeed In features. Also, after that, she will allow all of you to post in your questions. Remember, we are using the question and answer function at the bottom of your screen. That's why you'll be typing your question in and we'll be able to address it. And after that, we will be addressing all the questions that you have posted. Colleagues, the Succeed In student book and the lecture guide addresses the changes that Mario has addressed earlier. And also it gives you it takes off the load on your shoulders in terms of preparations and also planning and presenting your lessons in classroom. So please, the well-aligned student activities, they are also there and they'll be able to help you prepare your students for internal exams as well as the national examinations. Yolandi, I hope you are ready. Can you please take us on that one?
Cool. Thank you very much, Itumeleng, and to Mario and to Liesel as well for the introduction. I hope you found Mario's explanation helpful. So what I'm going to concentrate on a little bit more is the actual learning material that we've developed and how that all fits into the changes of the curriculum. So I'm just going to share my screen with you for a seckie. Just want to get to view. Okay, I'm just going to keep it as a open screen for now. Right. That one. Yeah, there we go. There. Okay. So I'm going to go through our quality assurance model with you. So what we use when we're developing our material, apart from finding authors that are DHET lecturers, and also in this case with the new syllabus, submitting it to the Department of Education for approval, we use an internal quality assurance model called LARP, where we really concentrate on our language level, our activities, our assessments, how students and lecturers progress through the course, and also how do we help lecturers with their planning going forward. So if we start with the language level, we understand that most of our students in TVET colleges are maybe second or third language speakers. So having the language level at the correct level is super important for accessibility, for understanding the content. So we align our content to the appropriate language level. We do language level editing. And a part of that as well is how we put the content together on a page. So your visual language. And examples of that would be, we make use of diagrams, we make use of flow charts, as much as possible in the textbook. You'll also find in computer practice in particular, there are a lot of screenshots with annotations, with step-by-step information about how to work through the computer practice activities and content. Then in terms of our activities, they are all ready and well prepared for ICASS assessment. So inside each module, you'll find power break activities, and these allow students to practice the content that they've just done. So you'll find that they are individual activities, work in group, pair work. So you as a lecturer then can look at these activities and decide, am I going to do this in class? Am I going to assign it as homework? How you engage and how much of those power break activities you give the students is really up to you. So to show an example of how they're put together, in the student book, you'll find a power break activity. So you'll see there on your left-hand side, power break 6.2.1 tells the student what they need to do. Then in your lecturer guide, you'll have the answer to the power break. And then for your more practical modules like Excel or Word documents, you'll have the soft copy files in the data disk. So Mario spoke quite a bit about the assessments that you can access. So there are two ways that you can access them. The one is the student book comes with a CD, and that CD has the actual activities that the students need to complete. So if your power break activity says open Word document 6.2.1, they go to the CD, they open that up, and then they follow the instructions to complete the assessment. On the other side of that, you as a lecturer, prescribing lecturer, will have access to the learning zone. And there you will find the model answers to all of the activities that the students would have had to complete in the student book. So the lecturer has access on the back end to what the question looked like, what the model answer is, as well as the power break activity, the PowerPoint slides, and all of the additional activities. So one of the main feedback that we've gotten on Intro and N4 is, oh, the books are really, really big, the curriculum is very heavy. So unfortunately, you know, or fortunately, there is a bigger theory section, and that is part of the syllabus that we have to go through. What we've done within 5 and M6 in particular is add additional activities only to the CD, so that you don't have a bigger book where students feel intimidated, but additional activities can then be completed via the CD only. So in terms of more formal assessments, so the power break, remember, they are for in class. So you practice, you assign it for homework, and then on a more formal assessment note, at the end of every module, you'll find a checklist which reflects the learning outcomes as they were put out at the beginning of the module. You can use that as a checklist so students can work through that and go, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Then we also have an end of module assessment that has mark allocation that will prepare students for the exam. So as you progress through the assessment, they will become harder and build up to what they need to be able to do in the actual exam. And then in your lecturer guide, you'll find your rubrics, your marking guidelines, and your suggested responses. So if we look then at what that looks like in the actual learning content, you'll see the assessment, you've got your mark allocations there. So this starts giving students an idea of, you know, this kind of question, how many marks do we think that's worth really? There's also an example there of how the revisiting the learning objectives looks like. So that's your checkbox where you can go, okay, can I describe the characteristics of a good document? Can I describe the benefits of a word processor? And then for you as a lecturer, your assessment memos, your power break memos are all there. So you can also use the memos as front of class to go through the assessments with your students once they've completed them at home. So all of this works towards your national exam. So in our book, we've got a printed mock exam, and then we've got an additional exam on the CD just for students to work through as well. So as I mentioned, we worked with the Department of Higher Education and Training when we were developing the learning material. So the mock exams are based on previous exam papers to the extent where that was covered. And then as we went through the development with them, the DHET also answered a lot of questions, looked at our mock exams and made sure that they correlate with what would be happening next. So there is an example for you. So like I mentioned, 2 example papers, one in the book and then additional one that's on the CD that the students will have access to and then lecturers will have access to. You have all the answers to the mock exams, and then there's a little screenshot there of what it looks like then on your data disk or on the learning zone. So that's quite important. So the last element really of supporting is planning. So we know that there's not a lot of time in any semester to prepare things. So in our lecturer guide, we've got teaching and lesson plan tables. So I mean, most colleges don't always follow the exact same number of weeks. Your books might arrive late, your students might have unrest. So you can use these planning tools to put in exactly how your college works. There are also teaching suggestions. So especially those new modules that you're not familiar with, go to the lecturer guide, read through what the teaching suggestions are. There's also links to videos where you can just get a little bit more information on how you can present that to your class. So here are some examples there. So you'll see for your planning at the beginning of the lecturer guide, we've got a full table of all of the modules, and then we repeat it again at the start of every module. We'll have your learning outcomes. Now those learning outcomes are taken exactly from the syllabus. So you can be assured that those are the outcomes that you need to meet. We've mapped it then to where that particular learning outcome is assessed. We show you which resources you can use in that module or in that particular unit. And then as you can see there at the bottom, some teaching suggestions and additional resources. And those are mapped per module. And of course, you have the data disk that helps with that as well. So those are the big kind of areas of quality control and focus that we have. But we have some other things in the book as well that help you and the learners like navigate the different modules. So at the beginning of every module, you'll find a module opener. It was also in one of the previous slides where you've got a nice flow diagram that tells you the units that you're going to go through, your learning objectives as per the syllabus, and then your key terms. So key terms and definitions, again, goes back to the language accessibility. Do students understand the terminology that's used? So if you look at a spread of the book, it's in full color, it's ring bound, so you can easily use it in your classrooms. So you'll see there the power break activities, we have definitions. So these are words that we think students might not have heard before, second, third language speakers, and then they are explained. So it's not dictionary definitions. So even though we're the dictionary people, long dictionary definitions doesn't always help our students. So we've tried to keep it as concise as possible. And then, especially where there are theory segments, we've tried to break it up as much as possible. So you've got nice subheadings, you've got systematic ways of explaining, self-guided practice, bullet points, just as students and lecturers are not intimidated by big bulks of additional content. So there where we're talking about computational thinking, again, flow diagrams, using color to engage students in the new content. And also then lastly, just a reminder that we have all of the books available now, Introductory Computer Practice, all the way to Computer Practice in 6. All of the titles, I've got a student book, a lecturer guide, and then the CD that goes with the student book and the lecturer guide content, either available on the Learning Zone, or you can just contact one of our sales consultants, and you have their details there if you'd like to chat to them. So I think we're going to go over to Itu now for question and answers. I've also got Asif with me, so if there are more technical questions, that he can answer that. So if you have any questions, we'll be taking them now.
Thank you very much, Yolandi, for your presentation. I am extremely proud for the fact that our textbooks are making a very serious impact in the lives of the students. Colleagues have requested that at the bottom of your screen, please look for Q&A function next to your chat function, and please type in your question in there so that we are able to respond to you promptly. Yolandi, I've got the first question for you. And please, I've been listening to Mario, and I think this question will be addressing to one of the things that Mario has been speaking to. Mario spoke of the real life scenarios, and now one of the attendees wants to know, does the Oxford books includes the real life scenarios in its assessment, especially looking into the activities, like we said, that we are trying to address and close the gap that the students have identified. Now, does our books respond to the real life scenarios?
Yeah. So after the module opener that I spoke about, we also have a starting point. So we know that students don't really read the learning outcomes. It's really something for the lecturers. So we have a starting point that is a story, where we would have, for example, John going to a computer store and trying to decide which computer to use. So we use a story to illustrate what they're going to be learning about in that module. So the starting point is one of the ways that we link to real life. Then we make use of quite a lot of case studies. So one of the new didactic guidelines of the syllabus is the integration of the different elements. So in previous years, you'd have a word activity and only do a word activity. You'll find now that the expectation is take a Word document, now go put it into Excel. From there, put it on a PowerPoint slide, now share it in OneNote, now upload it into the web. So as you progress through the different modules, your assessments will become more integrated as well. They will become bigger case studies. So you'll have scenarios where you go, okay, well, you know, Michael has now, his boss has asked him to make a PowerPoint slide, which now needs to be printed or uploaded or shared somewhere else. Help him do this. So that was quite a big shift, I think, from the previous syllabus to this one, is that integration, is that focus on case studies. And we don't only see it in computer practice. It's a requirement that we see in the updated information processing. It's the same with our communication subjects. And also, one of the suggestions by the DHET was that the lecturers start talking to each other. So the communication lecturer and the computer practice lecturer chat to each other and go, okay, well, you know, my students in management communication need to type up their CV. You know, can they do it in the computer practice class? So I also suspect that going forward, we won't only see that link to real life in standalone subjects, but across subjects. And I really welcome that. And we have tried as much as possible to link what they need to produce to what they'd actually need to do in the workplace. So the scenarios are very, very real.
Thank you very much, Yolandi. Just a follow-up. Again, Mario spoke of the tasks and the tests that are on the Oxford Learning Zone. One of the attendees have tried to check it up, but he or she says she couldn't see or get it. What's your take on that one?
So when a college or a class prescribes the book, they get access to the Learning Zone. So the Learning Zone has everything digitally. It's on a platform. But if you just order the printed book, the student book will have a CD with it. where they can access their activities, that digital mock exam that I spoke of. But for the lecturers, once you prescribe the book, those memos and those PowerPoints, you can just contact one of the sales consultants once you prescribe the book, and the access is there. I know in our sample copies, when we visited the colleges, we had one CD with, I think, the lecturer guide that has all of that content. So I think it's best to contact a sales consultant in your area to chat to them either about getting a sample of the book or getting access to the learning zone when you're prescribing, that kind of thing.
Right, thank you, Yolandi. Once you prescribe the book, then you will be able to gain access to the learning zone. Also, there's a question on the work schedule that our book is making use of 17 weeks planning, and there is no allocation of time for the assessment tasks and registration. And it actually makes the time that can be allocated only 13 weeks. I've heard you addressing it in your presentation, Yolandi, saying that the lecturers are more than welcome to play around the work schedule. To play around the work schedule and be able Asif, can you mute yourself, please? Thank you. The work schedule, Yolandi, you said that they can work around to best suit the needs of their own institution. But let's hear what can you add on that as well? Over to you, Yolandi.
Okay, Itu, thank you for that question. I'm going to jump in on that aspect, and I'm going to indicate that I'm taking off my publisher hat and I'm putting on my lecturer hat. Coming from the classrooms, the work schedules and the teaching plans that are placed in the textbooks are aligned to the prescribed notional hours that the DHET puts in the syllabus. So it is a general indication of how long you should be spending. But we do know, even with COVID now and rotational timetables, that 17 weeks for planning is generally in an ideal setup. And that when we do visit or look at our own schedules and assessment schedules and pay setters within our colleges, that time is actually reduced around how long registration takes place, late registrations, and factoring in public holidays as well, and your assessment schedule. So it's a valid question to say that the planning indicates 17 weeks, but that is actually also based on the discretion of each college and tailored to colleges' calendars regarding their pay setters and assessment schedules.
Great, thank you, Asif. We've got another one here. All our books, they've got the CDs.
Mute. Okay. Sorry, there was just a break in the connection. Itu, if I heard correctly, you indicated why are there still CDs being used in the book?
Yes, Asif.
Okay.
Whilst the computers are not having the CD-ROMs anymore.
Oh, yes. You know, as technology improves, all these hardwares are getting smaller and smaller and more compact. So yes, the CD-ROMs has been removed from most of the hardware devices. But when we make these decisions, we do it provincially with market research as well. So there are other provinces that still use hardware equipment that does facilitate CDs. And that was the medium of storage that came up as a most convenient one. But as we are moving towards updates, we will be looking at different devices as well. And as prescribing lecturers, the data that is stored on the CD is also available on the learning zone should your devices in your colleges not have the CD-ROM facilities.
Thank you, Asif.
Okay, Itu, I'm just going to hand over to you, Landy, to elaborate a bit on that. So I'm going to mute myself.
Please.
Hi there. Sorry. So also, if you are struggling with the CD and you can't access the learning zone, if you're prescribing the book, then we can send it to you electronically as well via our sales consultants. USBs tend to get lost quite quickly, so we decided to not go that route. But if you want a different way to access it, please just contact us and we will make a plan to get it to that student, to the lecturers. I think also a lot of the colleges we've sent the data disk information to them and they've placed it on their LMS. So if your college has a LMS as well, just contact us and we'll chat to you about how we can best get it to you.
Right, Asif, I've got 2 questions here. I'm going to club them. One of our colleagues needs assistance with OneNote. Can you kindly elaborate and also explain how should OneNote be assessed during the final exam?
You know, I've been watching the chat now and I see OneNote. Just before leaving the classroom, I had the chance to actually teach that and I was quite excited for that addition to the syllabus. From an elaborative point of view, I'm not too sure what I should elaborate on further to what is indicated in the syllabus. So I will latch my answer onto the question that indicates how will it be assessed during the final exams. So because the new syllabus for N6 will only be implemented, or N5 even, the national exam is the first for all. So for N5 and N6. And unfortunately, I'm not the examiner, but I have marked externally as well. So in my educated guess, OneNote will be marked in the same way in which PowerPoint is marked, where instructions are conducted on the computer and print screens or screenshots are then made of the answers. So adding in pages or adding in workbooks and renaming them, for example, and placing the placeholders within the OneNote book as well. So I'm thinking that is how it will be assessed, but it's anyone's guess, but that is the most close to accurate guess that I can take from a national perspective, that it will be done as with PowerPoint with print screens. And then also the power break activities that we have included in the textbook was closely designed with the author, who also consults closely with DHET in terms of aligning these activities very closely to what can be expected at a national exam.
Great, thank you very much. I've got another one here. If I heard correctly, for N6CP in the new curriculum, we will now be doing Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. Can you, Alandi, or you, Asif, confirm this, please?
Okay, so yes, that is correct. The only software application that was removed or does not feature anymore in CP is Microsoft Access. So yes, Word and Excel still features within the N6 curriculum.
Thank you, Asif. I've got Kahisho here who requested that in future we use Microsoft Teams. It is better with connection compared to Zoom. The issue of the CDs and the CD-ROMs was addressed. I've got a question that was also speaking to that. Seeing that is being addressed, I'm going to continue. And then there's another one that says, can we have a practical workshop on how to teach all the new syllabus, like step by step, and where to get what? Over to you, Asif.
Let me do that. So I think it's best to contact your sales consultant in your province, and maybe we can bring up that slide a little bit later, so that we can set up something a little bit more detailed and maybe get the colleges around you as well to do it. There is some time before implementation, so I would suggest that you contact us quite soon. Webinars like this obviously help as well, but we can do practical workshops with you as well.
Thank you very much, Yolandi. Colleagues, I see that there's one other question that just came through. Are we still doing old Excel in N5 in addition to the new one?
Okay, Itu, can you repeat that one for me, please?
The colleague still doing old Excel in N5 in addition to the new one.
Okay, so the way in which I see Excel has changed in the syllabus is that they're focusing a lot on the type of formulas that are presented through N4 through to N6. So N4 focuses a lot on the error formulas, like the reference error and the there's 6 ones, there's 6 of them. And then moving into N5, it elaborates. So there is a little bit of the old syllabus that comes through. For example, graphs and show formula, but the additional aspects to the Excel components, it's more featured around the formulas that needs to be added to what was previously taught in the old syllabus regarding Excel.
Thank you very much, Asif. Also, I would like to know, Yolandi?
Maybe just to add to that is what you need to remember is that all the new exams will be based on the last 2 versions of Office, right? So if you haven't done an upgrade at your college yet, I suggest that you speak to your IT people. What we've done in our books and in our data disk is use Office 365, and there are free educational versions available for that. So if your college hasn't moved to that already, that would maybe be a consideration. But that said, I mean, the next question is always, well, will your data disk documents be compatible? Yes, they will be. You'll just get a little pop-up that says, oh, you're using a different version, and then you just click OK. And that's also something that the students will need to get used to. So I would just kind of put that out there. If you're going to have a bigger discussion with maybe your HODs, your IT people, your software will need to conform as well to the newer versions.
Right. One of our attendees want to know if there won't be a table of content in N6 in the new syllabus, and will students be choosing between Word and Excel, or are they now writing both applications?
They're writing both.
Right. Well, that's a direct one. In the new ICASS, we are expected to do 1 assessment and 1 trial. Is it correct, Asif?
Okay, I'm going to try and make sense of that one. In the new ICASS, we expected to do 1 assessment, 1. Okay, so the ICASS initially, when the new syllabus came out, indicated that there were 4 assessments. The standard 3 that always comes along with your report 1 and 1, your test 1, practical 1, and your internal exam or test 2. And they added a 4th practical, which was then removed in a later or upgraded version of this syllabus from DHET. So they're still only sticking to the 3 for now, which is your test 1, your practical 1, and your internal exam. The only exception was, I think, for this semester, where DHET, as a COVID-19 response, removed the test 1 component and moved that weighting into the practical ICASS assessment, still to balance out your ICASS term mark. So yes, to answer that question, those 3 assessments still apply for ICASS.
Beautiful. A practical session will be much appreciated, Ms. Faram. So let's keep on bringing these practical sessions. Will Excel only be in business management, or will it also be included in management assistant in N6?
Okay, so the this is subject specific. So if computer practice falls within the business management program, then it will cover everything in computer practice. And if it falls within management assistant, it will cover everything in computer practice. So it's regardless of which program, it all depends, is computer practice part of your program? If so, it covers everything.
Right, for any students that takes CPN6, it covers that particular student. It is not exclusive. It includes everyone who enrolls in N6.
For computer practice.
Right, for CP, this one we have responded it that there won't be a split between Word and Excel. They do them both. Right. Are the N6 going to be assessed in the new curriculum this semester or the next semester?
So N6 is only implemented January 2022. So N4 was January 2021. N5 was now second semester, June, July 2021, and it will be followed up with N6 in January 2022. So that first national exam will happen around what, May, June 2022. Yeah.
Thank you, Asif. Will there be a talk in N6?
You mean a webinar or workshop such as this for N6?
No, there's an abbreviation TOC in N6.
Table of contents.
Oh, TOC.
Yes, that's table of content. I
yeah.
assume. I'm not sure.
N6.
Yeah,
yes, I need to access the syllabus to check and give you a very specific answer. I don't want to pull it out of the air and say yes. So let me just check. Is it possible for us to get back to you on that one specifically, where we consult the syllabus and the author, and then also how the table of contents has maybe changed from the old syllabus into the new syllabus?
Right. That will be appreciated, Asif, if we can get that information so that we keep our people abreast with the latest information. Yolandi, are you covered that side?
Yeah, all good from my side. If there aren't any other, I don't know if there are any more questions. Otherwise, I think we can thank everyone.
Right. Thank you very much, Yolandi, and thank you very much to all the attendees. Thank you very much for making out some time out of your busy schedule to dial into our virtual webinar today. And I trust that you have found this session to be very fruitful and it will bear the fruits that we all need. And any of you, whoever needs a copy of any of the books, please drop your information on the chat box, especially your cell phone number, your email address, as well as the institution that you are based or that you are stationed at, so that we can assign the correct salesperson to assist you. And let me take this time to wish you well with your term 4 and also with your preparations for the national examinations. And please have a blessed day and hope to see you on the upcoming session. Thank you very much.